Welcome to the Spheres of Spirit with Nancy Myers, aka the Lady of the Light. Nancy will discuss the everyday magic and wisdom of spirit which surrounds each of us, waiting to be discovered. She will share some of her remarkable orb photos, proving that our angels, guides, loved ones in spirit, and even pets surround us and guide us in our physical world. During this episode, Nancy will discuss one of the many spheres or aspects of spirit available to us based on her orb photography. She will also share a special channeled message from her guide, Leonini, and do an oracle card reading to help guide you along your personal spiritual adventure. And now, here is your host, orb photographer, author, medium, and speaker, Nancy Myers.
Hi, welcome. I am Nancy Myers, and today I am absolutely delighted to welcome my special guest, Suzanne Giesemann. Welcome, Suzanne.
Hi, Nancy, and hi, everybody.
For those who have never heard of, which I find hard to believe, Suzanne, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an internationally renowned medium, channel, author, and incredible teacher. Suzanne served as a U.S. Navy commander, you were a U.S. Navy commander serving as a commanding officer and as the aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on 9/11. She now serves to bring hope and inspiration to humanity. And here's a quote: "My mission has changed from serving my country to serving those who are dealing with the challenges of being human." That's a 180. That's a 180. But before I ask you my first question, Suzanne, if you would allow me, there's one more soul that I have to thank for making this possible. And that's my son in spirit, Robbie. For the audience, I was so blessed to be able to receive a reading from Suzanne a couple of months ago. And Suzanne was on a roll, and the reading was incredible. And Suzanne sometimes doesn't remember everything that happens. It's like I say, we just don't have the mind space to hang on to everything. But you were doing great, and all of a sudden you stopped right in the middle of it, and you said, "Oh, he wants you to ask a question now." And it kind of knocked me off my center. I went, "Now?" And so I'm trying to think of the questions that I had written down. And the only one that I could remember was, "Okay, Robbie, you wanted me to do this podcast. Do you have anything to say about it?" And what you did just utterly floored me. You said, "Yes, he did." And you took your arm and you went like this. And you said, "He's saying, I need to be on it."
Oh, really?
So I would have never had the courage to ask you.
Well, clearly he showed me. Yeah, that's cool. Here we are.
Yeah. So I want to thank my son, because that's just a quick story of how spirit, even our loved ones in spirit, guide us and steer us and get us to do, what it is we either need to do or should be doing.
But Nancy, as you say that, I always hear things through the skeptic's ears, and they clearly are saying, well, that's something she could have just said, so she gets on your show. But I'm sure that your reading was also filled up with verifiable evidence about Robbie that I couldn't possibly have known, because that's what I focus on with that Navy background. Give me the evidence.
Oh, yeah, you had my son, no doubt. And I was all wrapped up and going, yes, that's my son. That's my son. And when you stopped and said, well, ask your question, that's why I went, okay. So, because it was a joy for me to hear that you had connected, and the messages were incredible. And the evidence. I know that you are an evidence-based medium, and that's very important. And so it was good. No, you wouldn't do that just to get on my show.
No.
So let's talk briefly, if we can, Suzanne, about the beginning, because you were not a born medium, as you say, and neither was I.
I could just elaborate on that. it's just a common term for those who don't realize they're supposed to be a medium. I know without any doubt I was called to do this work, but I had to have that first chapter of my life with the military career first. I see that it unfolded perfectly. So in that sense, absolutely born to be a medium, but not aware of it until my 5th decade.
Yeah. What a wonderful way to put that. I was just going to say awakened and unawakened medium because the same for me. I never thought I could be a medium, but what shook me or made me change course, if you will, was the loss of my son.
Yeah.
And something similar happened to you, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yes, in fact, I have Susan's picture right here. This is my stepdaughter, Susan, who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, crossing the flight line at work one day and was struck and killed by lightning. Literally a bolt out of the blue. It wasn't even raining at the time.
Wow.
And she was 6 months pregnant. So we lost her and our grandchild that day.
Double tragedy.
Not really lost. We say that term all the time, but boy, what you and I have come to know and our mission to share with others is that it's a physical loss, no doubt about it. And that it's a huge adjustment.
Yeah.
But then it becomes adjusting our belief system and our personal experiences, widening the lens a bit to allow for these new experiences that show us they are still right here.
You know, did you have a feeling, Suzanne, because when the phone was ringing to tell me the news, which I kind of already knew in my soul knew that my son had crossed, but I knew if I answered that phone, my life was never going to be the same. Did you have a feeling? What propelled you to then say, I'm gonna go down this path?
Oh, yeah, we had zero inkling, zero feeling. We were caught completely off guard. I remember meeting somebody the summer before who had a child across the veil. It was my first time. And yet I just finished speaking to 900 shining light parents this past weekend at a conference. But until that point, that year Susan passed, I didn't know anybody who had suffered that devastation.
Wow.
So it completely blindsided us. But what led me to this seeking and then discovery was seeing Susan's lifeless body in the coffin. It's not a great image, but it was enough to shake me into the awareness that body is just a vessel. So her spirit is still somewhere because it was so drastically different from our Susan. I knew then that there is a spark to each of us that enlivens the body and that still exists when it leaves the body.
So was that your first funeral of a loved one who had crossed?
Only of one super close like that. I mean, my grandparents had passed and I love them, but it's nothing like a
child.
Yeah. And she's not my biological child, but still.
She was your child.
Way different.
Yeah. So, Chris, if I can bring up that first slide, I got to give him just a minute. I make more work for him. Bless him. So this is what I do. This was a very recent orb that I just captured, and it was very unique. And oops, there it goes. Oops, back one, Chris. There it goes. And then I listen. Okay, what do you want me to pair with this? And it says, trust the process. We always end up right where we're meant to be, right when we're meant to be there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. So here you are. You have this amazing naval career or career in the Navy, thinking, okay, this is what I was meant to do. And then all of a sudden, you know, your path takes a right turn or a left turn. And
well, let me just say that I had already retired from the Navy. It became very clear to me a couple of years before I retired, this career I was not going to stay in. My husband, he's very proud of me, and he tells everybody, oh, Suzanne could have been an admiral. I mean, serving at the top levels, maybe I would have been, but I saw how that would play out. I saw the types of jobs available to me. And after 9/11, when I was in the last aircraft in U.S. airspace as the aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs on that day, that's when I said, look, my husband Ty and I have these dreams that we are just meant to live out, that's what I'm supposed to do, not stay in another 10 years after my 20 years at which you can first retire. So I put my papers in and just knew that was the right decision. Then Susan's passing started this whole other unfolding of my future. That was unexpected.
But did you find that your experience and your knowledge and service helped prepare you for this second career, if you will?
In a way, sure, because now I speak to large crowds and I have that discipline and the we call it a command presence, and I can't deny that I still carry myself with that commanding officer's presence, but not stiff and rigid anymore. I know that I've found that nice balance between the left brain and the right brain, but certainly to handle the workload that I have now, to prioritize things, all of the good parts of my first career work well with this, except when I do sessions. And then I have to completely get that part of me out of the way and do exactly what your orb slide said, trust the process.
And that's hard, especially when we first start. You have to trust, you have to have the courage to look. It's like you said, you knew the spark of Susan was somewhere, that the body wasn't her. And I knew my son was somewhere. And I wanted to know, where did you go? Can I still talk to you? So that was my catalyst, that propelled me. But then kind of, I feel like spirit took it from there, putting the right scenarios, the right books, the right teachers, the right people.
The spirit has always done that, but you followed the nudges, and here you are. We got to do our part.
Absolutely. One of the first things Robbie told me from spirit was, Mom, I'm going to follow the popcorn. I'm going to put the kernels out. And he said, just follow the popcorn and it'll lead you. And what I found is when I trusted, like the slide said, when I surrendered and I trusted, things flowed.
Yeah.
And they were brought to me just at the right time. Because what I'm reading now, had I read in the beginning, it would have made no sense to me. So how did you begin? What told you, and I know the answer to this because I know you meditated, but what told you to meditate?
The soul. And I didn't know it was the soul. It was a knowing. And so sometimes we just know things and you just act and don't realize that it's bubbling up from a lower level. And I just knew that Susan existed and I was going to connect with her, and clearly just saying, where are you, wasn't working. So I just knew I had to get quiet. I had to quiet my mind, that I would somehow connect with her at some deeper level. And this was 2006. People weren't meditating as much. It sounded so strange when I would say to Ty, I'm going to go meditate now. And I did it every day without fail. And the first 3 weeks I fell asleep every time, because it's like the body is saying, whoa, she's actually resting. She doesn't do that in the middle of the day. Nap time. And I was like, this is not working. This is a waste of time, until I started to sense things and have more of a knowing. People would say things and I'd say, no, that's not quite right. Like I met a couple and they said, oh, we're from Michigan. And I thought, no, you're not. You're from Indiana. And turns out they were from Indiana, but currently they're from Michigan. Things like that. The psychic ability just started coming back. We all have this ability. We're just tuning in to information and energy that's already in the field. We've turned it off because we can pick up our phone and say, hey, if I say, hey, SIRI, my phone will go off.
Yeah, don't say it. Right. So what were the first, was it claircognizance, just a knowing that first opened up for you, or?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then?
Then I took my husband to a medium. That took about a year to find somebody who I knew was the real deal. I didn't want to chance this because I knew I'd only get one chance with Ty until he would say, I'm not going to one of those people again. And so I found a woman who had shown she had an ability, but didn't know I was looking. And she didn't know our last name, very important to me because I was skeptical at the time. And she just proved beyond a doubt that Susan was in that room. And from there, it just changed my life overnight. I just said, oh my God, it's real. She's really here. She still exists. But that was through somebody else. Even while I'm meditating all this time, in a whole year of meditating, I still had not connected with Susan. But that medium showed me she was there. So the next step, since I was already a published author, was I have to let people know this is real. I'm going to write a book about mediumship. And I wrote 2 mediums biographies, and
Which I've read and highly recommend.
In the process, one of them, Janet Nohavec, who just passed last month, called me to the front of her classroom while I'm sitting in the back taking notes about her for her book and said, you can do this too. There's a spirit standing here. What do you sense? And that was the first time I really had a clairvoyant experience of seeing images, not a person, but I saw patent leather shoes. I saw a full head of hair. I saw the number 70, which was his age. And then clairaudience. I heard him say, twinkle toes. He was a ballroom dancer, hence the shoes. And his wife called him Twinkle Toes. It was the father of a young woman in the class.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to you for taking that leap, because you really have to put yourself out there and trust. Okay.
Well, that was the Navy officer, because she said, there's someone here, come up here. And maybe if I hadn't had that suck it up, do your job attitude, I would have said, no, that's okay. But instead it was, can do. Okay, whatever. Even though I wished that a hole would open up in the floor and I could crawl into it. So if it hadn't been for that urge and that training, well, okay. Yeah. My guides just said, we would have gotten to you another way because you're meant to be doing this.
See, life purpose, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We come into our life purpose. It's, I tell people I didn't start till I was 55, and you think by then, oh, I've already had my life purpose. My whole life was setting me up, I think, for this, so it's amazing. Can I back up just a little bit? Because most of the time, although men are making more and more of an appearance, like in workshops and things, but we usually work with women. And I know for my husband, he had no belief in the afterlife or that we could contact them. How did that medium affect Ty?
He was sobbing just as much as I was, because when you get good evidence, you can't deny it. And she said things about Susan, including the clincher. She's bringing with her a little baby boy who she wants to introduce to you, but he's hanging back shyly, sucking his thumb because he doesn't know you. Susan was pregnant with the baby boy.
Oh, my goodness.
And then she said, this young woman, sir, is crawling on your lap. She's sitting on your lap with her arms around your neck and her head on your shoulder. That is exactly what Susan did the very last time we saw her. Age 27, tough as nails, sergeant in the Marine Corps. But that's how she said bye-bye to Dad the last time we saw her. Who's going to deny that?
Yeah.
Who can deny that? That's her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
if I could just share a very magical moment that we really didn't understand until later. We were on the 7th floor of an apartment. The windows opened this much to just let a little bit of outside air in, but no breeze. And suddenly this big clay pot with a potted plant this big beside us on an end table fell onto the floor and broke the pot, dirt and plant everywhere. And we were all just so stunned because Susan was there at that point. We all just kind of thought, well, how did that happen? And it wasn't until later we realized somebody's trying to get our attention.
Oh, wow. And that's hard, I hear, for spirits to do.
Very hard to do physical movement.
Yeah. So that's amazing, because Robbie did something to get his dad started, on the spiritual path, because they want their dads there too. They want them to expand their belief systems and the possibilities. So as you then progress this, and you're meditating more and more, you're making better connections, you're bringing in spirits. What surprised you about this whole process?
What surprised me was how interactive it is, how engaging, how funny, how creative, how clever those across the veil are, how very much still alive, how real they are. This is not energy. This is not data. They are still people, and they just can't wait for us to realize they're with us. They'll bend over backwards to let us know that and make their presence known. They want us to keep interacting and engaging them because they are still part of your life.
Yeah. It's like they take their personalities. They're still who they were. You know, my son comes in and teases me all the time because that's what he did, you know, through mediums. And I'm going, oh, real funny, Robbie. But the other thing too is if we ask them for something, the responsiveness, you know, that give me a sign or, you know, have you found that you can talk to spirit and they respond so
yes,
magnificently?
Yeah, the sign game, I say, you know, you ask your loved one, okay, I want to trust this is you. If I can trust this, give me the sign of, and in that moment of pausing, they will actually put in your mind what to ask for. You will think it's your own idea, but they have the higher perspective and see what's coming just down the road for you. It's kind of like, oh, this is going to be good when that actually unfolds for them. And you have these magical moments, and finally they add up if you keep playing the sign game till you just can't deny they're here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be anything. It can be bugs or birds or literally signs or music or colors. Do you work at all with angel numbers?
I don't work with them, but I notice them. I notice them because they do pop up all the time. And what happens is you get the awareness that some higher being grabbed your head and said, look at the clock now, but you don't realize that's happened. Or look at that license plate number, or you just notice and you realize that you're just part of one big web.
Yeah, and they shift. I mean, in the beginning, it was first 1111, and you look up the meaning of that, and it's just, you know, you were surrounded by spirit and angels, you know. Then it moved into 444, and I go, okay, what does that mean, you know? And then I realized when Robbie, he'll use 333, that's his number, and now it has shifted to like a sequence 1 2 3 4 2 3 4 and
you know, in the middle of the night, and that's interesting because I've never noticed them, but I got 1 2 3 4 last night. Very cool.
So did I. yeah, you know, and it means, okay, you're on another, you know, learning phase, and it kind of, for me, we go up and then we plateau for a little bit and let it all sink in. Or did you find that it was just a straight arc, straight up?
There are periods of both.
Okay. So as you're doing this, when did you first realize, wait a minute, there's other beings besides our loved ones?
Through the meditation practice, before Susan even came through to me, I just couldn't deny it. And really, it was when my original mentor, Janet Nohavik, said, they're going to start giving you messages and speaking through you, and have a pen and paper ready. And if anybody watches Messages of Hope, the documentary on YouTube or Amazon Prime, we recreated that moment when the first poem came through me. 3 full pages of rhyming stanzas directly answering a question I had asked. I burst into tears. I didn't have to recreate the tears in the documentary because just reliving that sacred moment brought them back. That was Spirit's way of saying, we could talk to you and give you beautiful phrases all you want, but you're not going to believe you're not making it up until we do something different. So they brought me a poet. And the poets continued for a year. Beautiful, meaningful poems, all of them available on my website. And after a year, you know, this kind of joke, there are so many things that can rhyme with life and love. And so finally, you know, they said, do you trust that this is not your imagination? Absolutely. And since then, I've received over 4,000 daily messages that go out to tens of thousands of people every day. The daily way messages.
I love them. And I didn't know that you did that until I started channeling it's my higher self. You have a group, I think you refer to as Sanaya. It's a group, and mine is just a single entity. Although every once in a while she'll say we instead of I.
Interesting.
But she does the same thing with me. She'll show me an image and then build the whole message around that.
Nice.
And for a while I had to sit and go, was that me? I haven't done nearly as many as you. I've only done a couple hundred. But you learn. I took a class once with John Holland, and he said, to differentiate, ask this question: did that come from you or to you? And I go, well, yeah, I'm not that smart, and I don't, I couldn't make that up.
That's right.
But did you notice with my guide, probably 2/3 of her message, Suzanne, is about the importance of meditating?
I couldn't give it a percentage. It's not that often. Their messages are much more philosophical.
Okay. I have to. No, I have a few more minutes here before I have to take a break, and then we're going to have to take a quick little break. Okay. So, what did you learn? What did you realize about how spirit could help us in our everyday life? How we use it or how we ask for it.
Spirit will, I call them snags, grab your attention. As you're just looking around, you feel something catch your eye. Stop there, pause, and pull the thread. By connecting with the heart, trusting you have helpers, and say, what is it I'm supposed to notice here? We talked about it with numbers already, and that's a sign from your son. But other things like, why did this mouse just snag me? What's the message there? And just ordinary things. You make that a part of your life, and it grows until you know that at any time, if you have a question, you can stop wondering, what do I do? And simply shift your focus higher and ask directly, whoever has the best answer for me, what do I do about this? It becomes teamwork. You know that you're never alone. You're always guided, and your life just flows.
And would you agree that the more you recognize it and acknowledge it, the more you get?
Without a doubt. Yeah.
So many people try to explain it away. But,
at first. But that's why I recommend everybody document the magical moments, and you'll see a pattern, and you'll realize you cannot deny this is real.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, I'd love to talk to you about living as awakened and how it changes our lives. So we'll be right back after this.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
we discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things,
but they're all pure love.
And welcome back. So I read that one of your missions, if I can use that word, is to teach us about this new way of life, which you refer to as living as awakened. Can
Actually,
you
it's
tell us?
living the awakened way. The awakened
Well,
way.
see, I messed that up.
Didn't mess it
Sorry.
up. Give me a chance to accentuate the awakened way. Yeah, it comes from messages delivered to me by a young man named Wolf, who was killed the same way Susan was, struck by lightning. Yet he left proof before he passed that the soul knows how it's going to pass. It's a phenomenal story I tell in my book, Wolf's Message. He came back through me with irrefutable evidence that we were talking to him to share with us. We as a species are out of balance, that this is a time of great change, and we can easily become aligned with certain actions. And that is the awakened way. And it's really just a matter of understanding 3 key principles, which we've really knitted into this talk already. But in brief, number 1, realize you are not only human. If you're not only human, what are you? You're a soul, an eternal soul. We don't become a soul when we die. We already are a soul living in a body for a short while. And then unfold that. How does that play out in your life? The second principle of the awakened way of living is to understand you're part of one big web, and the signs that we talked about, the angel numbers, the orbs, all of that just shows us this. There's so much more to it than that, though. And then the third one is that you find healing and connection with others and with higher beings through expanded states of consciousness. That doesn't just mean meditating. You can expand your consciousness just by radiating love to others. That's an expanded state. Feel connection, but you can also connect with higher beings through meditative states, presence, and again, states of gratitude and love.
Yeah, and now that you've said gratitude, thank you for setting that up. Could I get the next slide?
Oh, I didn't know. Somebody knows.
So this slide I took, it was actually in France, and this young lady was doing a dance, interpretive dance. We lost it, Chris. There it is. And this is how she finished. And as she finished, something told me to take a picture, and you can see she sees that orb. But this quote was from Aesop: "Gratitude turns what we have into enough." And I just love that. Thank you so much, Chris. Because when we shift our perspective and we look at things differently and value things differently, I think we become more peaceful. We're able to find joy a little easier. And I think changing your perspective helps us cope with struggles and grief, get out of what you always talk about, which I love, is get out of the fear. One of the greatest gifts that Robbie gave me from his passing was to take away the fear of death. He's come through and told me this is what happens. We are eternal souls. We are more, like you said, than just these bodies. And when you can release that, how many people spend so much time worrying about that, just that one thing? Yeah. So, I like that. What you said, change your perspective. So one of the things that surprised me on this path was the whole idea of reincarnation. Did you believe? You talk a lot about reincarnation. Did you believe in reincarnation?
I didn't know what to believe, so I was on the fence. And I talk about it because it's what everybody else wants to hear about. So I have asked my guides a lot and gotten answers in channeled sessions, but also from those I've spoken to across the veil with evidence to back it up. And my understanding at this point is that we humans have it a bit wrong. We think in human terms, one soul, one lifetime. But it's more like a deck of cards. The soul has a deck of cards and can deal it out into individual lifetimes. So we have this hand that we're playing right now. And when that hand is over, it goes back into the deck, but is always there anytime anybody needs to call on it, as the soul is playing other hands. So that's still physicalizing it more than it needs to. The energy field that is your loved one, that is you, will always exist. And it's part of a greater soul.
Yeah, I know some people have the fear that if their loved one reincarnates, they won't be there. Yeah. But you haven't found that to be true, have you?
I know that's not true. There's a book about a young boy who knew he had been in a pilot in World War II and died. And
I read that.
book is called Soul Survivor, Soul. And in the book, he meets the sister of the person he was in his previous life, who's now in her 80s. I knew when I read that book that even if that little boy were sitting beside me, if I did a reading for that older woman, I could bring through her brother and interact and engage, not just pulling data out about him, to have a conversation with him, even though the mutual soul that engendered both lives, the pilot and the little boy, was, even it
He was
matter.
here in the
Yeah, it's
physical.
here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, when Robbie has told me, there's no time up there. Everything happens at the same time, and which is really hard for us,
Oh, yeah.
to wrap our heads around.
Very hard.
But yeah, everything happens at once. So that's why, and I think the more that we get in touch with the web of consciousness, the more we can maybe reach into that or tap into the past, present, and future that we call.
Yeah.
But so why do you think, or do you think that there's a shift going on, that there is changes afoot? And what do
Because
you
that
feel
is
about that?
life. Life is about evolution, and the evolution of human species means we are in our adolescence now, and to grow up, we need to learn to see each other as souls and to love each other, even if we don't agree, so we can come to mutually beneficial choices, to compromise. We're not there yet. However, energies surrounding us are also evolving. Our whole solar system is coming into new energies, balance. And because of that, we have an opportunity for more of us to awaken, to realize who we are by paying attention to those intuitive nudges that we get and following that natural urge to see beyond the separation, to see beyond the story, and just learn to accept and love each other, even if we don't agree.
Do you feel an urgency or a speeding up?
I don't feel an urgency. Everybody around me is talking about these are dire times, we have to change. And yet I picked up a book the other day and read about these dire times and all of the challenges and the warring factions. And I looked at the date and it was from 1948. Then I found another one from 1973. Same thing. No matter what era we're in, the human being focuses on the negative because there's a lot of it. That is part of the duality here. And so urgency, I know that no matter what happens, we're all okay at the soul level. It's all about the experience. Would I like us to change overnight? You bet, from my human level. Yet I have this absolute knowing and trust that all is well no matter what.
So there's two questions and I want to go with that. But the first I will ask is, I've heard that these special souls, these kids are coming in, there's more of an acceptance of mediumship, and mediumship is expanding. And these kids that are coming in are, the veil is thinner for them, and they come in with more gifts and knowing. My son calls them the Sterlings. He said, Mom, now the Sterlings are coming in which means the highest purity and quality. I just thought that was amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. But because this is happening, and we can go on shows like this and talk about it, but yet there's still resistance.
Oh, sure. That's the adolescence of humanity. And you just trust, and I don't try to change anybody's mind. I just follow the nudges, let the evidence speak for itself. And if people are not open to that, I just open my heart to them and say, well, look at that. There's a different way of viewing the world. It's really taken a while to get there. At first, you want everybody to know and you want to change the world, right? You got to do this. I got to change the world. No, I just love the world. Just bring more love in, and we're doing our job. Every one of you can fulfill your purpose by bringing more love into this world.
Absolutely. And that's what I hear over and over and over again is that one word, love. And then
but not the human love, not the human love. It's the kind of love that it's above that, where you you say, I may not agree with your actions. We may not resonate at a human level, but I see the soul in there. Yeah.
Yeah, if we could only see that. So that brings me to the second part of this question, and I'm not sure. I'll just ask it. So we come here, and I just said some of these kids are coming in with the veil thinner and they have more gifts and can see more. And if we come from a perfect world, and then they wipe our minds clean and now go, okay, now spend all that time finding your way back home. It's like, why?
Why
Why
would
do
you
we
go
do
to
that?
a third world country? For the experience.
Yeah.
For the experience. And so we, in relation to the spirit world and the angelic realm, is a place that needs some development. But how wonderful if we can bring the love from there to here. So it is for the experience, the fullness of love in full expression, L-I-F-E, life.
Mm.
And if we remember fully who we are, then there's no impetus to change. But we get here and we feel that disconnect. There's something inside us that says this is not right. There's something inside us that says I am supposed to act in a loving way, and you do. If you already know that, then that takes the trial and error and growth out of the whole equation.
Yeah. And I tell people sometimes we have to be made uncomfortable in order to start looking, because if we're comfortable, who wants to change, right?
That's it. That's the human way. We don't like getting off the chair.
Yeah, exactly. So, you've been doing this, Suzanne, is it 16 years now?
No, 2006, 15 years since Susan passed, and 12 years that I've been working as a medium.
12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen changes in mediumship itself in those 12 years?
I'm only privy to the work of my students and a few. Well, I've been in the same circle of professional mediums that those that I admire most are those who do evidence-based mediumship. And because of efforts to bring credibility to this work, and I've trained literally thousands of people in the methods, I'm seeing more of a focus on doing this with evidence, ethics, and credibility. So the more we do that, and there's some fabulous websites coming online that are going to give people the opportunity to have evidence-based readings with trusted, tested mediums, then the more people will get the word. It's not scary. It's not wrong. It's not woo-woo. If it's evidence-based and done ethically for the right reasons, for healing and to show that life does go on, then more and more people will accept it.
Yes. My son and my guide tells me this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Good.
There's so much more waiting to be discovered that you have no idea, and we can't imagine it.
Yeah.
Does Sanaya, has she ever hinted anything like, or that your group?
Just that our physical bodies can't hold even a fraction of the energy, the power of love that's available to us. It would disintegrate.
Wow.
And we're given tastes of that sometimes. I've had just a few bursts of it, and it's beyond belief. Those who have had near-death experiences know what I'm talking about. I've had a couple of spiritually transformative experiences where luckily my physical body didn't have to die. And I know that there's so much more than we can even fathom. I find that very exciting. But meanwhile, we don't know how much we can handle here, how much is available. So if you adopt a childlike attitude of play and open to possibilities without being gullible or vulnerable, then it's just beautiful. We get out of these rigid boxes that we're in, and life is wondrous. I want to say magical. It almost came out of my mouth. Now it did. But
Yeah,
that's
it
because I don't want people to think it's magic. It's real and it's wondrous.
I was laughing when you said childlike wonder, because that was almost my next question. Robbie said to, Mom, just have this childlike wonder, like, I get up every day and I go, Spirit, what are we doing today? What am I going to learn?
In my readings, I still go, yay,
Yeah.
I never stop. Every single session that where we have a great connection, yay. Why would we take this for granted or get blasé about it? This is awesome to show people, look at this. Your loved one is right here.
And you have been amazing at trying to get people to realize that, I mean, look how I can speak for me, how it's changed me and brought me peace and joy and happiness and
Yay.
learned what's really important, right?
Yeah.
And so we have a few more minutes here. And I want to make sure I get this in. So can you tell people, because you have it's such a wealth of information and help available. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just tirelessly working for Spirit because they're constantly pushing me, and I see the effect it has on people. So on my website, on the homepage at SuzanneGiesemann.com, down at the bottom, we've created a free e-guide. So many people said, you have so many resources, half of them free, the rest very reasonably priced, because I never want to price anybody out of anything, and I don't. This e-guide is called Where Do I Begin? And it's like a menu of all my offerings and why they would help you and which ones you'd want to do in which order, because I have books and meditations and audio CDs and videos and you name it. It just goes on and on. And classes, online classes, in-person classes, workshops, retreats. It just, I was just thinking before this interview, I'm spread a little thin right now. I'm just treading water till I can get through the next 2 months. And yet I love it. I love it.
And then I think that's where some of your training has come in to organize and keep everything just as it's going, when it's supposed to go. I know if I did half of the stuff you did, my brain would be fried. There's no way. So, how has this changed you, Suzanne?
Oh my gosh. I'm so content with life. I don't fear anything.
Isn't that amazing?
I would be afraid if somebody immediately threatened my life. That's a natural human response, and then would come to the awareness that I have. Most of all, I have so many tools that I share with everyone of how to find peace all the time. So just live life on an even keel, yet I get excited. I do go down in the dumps too. I'm not perfect.
Sure, we're human.
But not to the extremes that I used to. So it's just such a beautiful way to live. The most important change, though, Nancy, is I see the soul in everyone. And I can honestly say I love everyone at a soul level. And that's my goal, to help more and more people find that.
Yeah. The acceptance and the love and the judgment.
Yeah. To me, it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, black, white, red, yellow. What are all the ways we divide each other these days? Just it's not even in my awareness unless I focus there. And then I remember, the way I used to live, it just doesn't serve anymore at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, the tools are there for everyone if you want to do it. Yeah. And the rewards are priceless. So
let me give you the number one tool lately that's just, people are loving it. My Sip of the Divine meditation. Look it up on YouTube. 3 minutes a day to transform your life by putting your priorities on, I'm going to discover this higher place myself. Sip of the Divine. It's like finding a genie in the bottle. You want answers? You'll get them.
Wow. Okay. That's remarkable. And then you also find joy in the smallest of things, which I just love too, So Suzanne, I can't thank you enough for being here.
Well, thank you for doing this show. I think it's just a evidence of the way we're changing, that more and more people are enjoying shows like this and doing them.
Thank you. It's a new form of mediumship with the Orbs, and that's one of the ways that I think it's expanding and growing. And plus I got my marching orders from my son, so I had no choice. So, but I want to thank you again for shining your light, for your amazing guidance and help, and your mission and fulfilling your mission. You could have said no and you didn't. So thank you.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, wow. There's a lot to chew on there. Suzanne is an amazing teacher. If you haven't read her books, I just finished Wolf's Story. Incredible story, incredible evidence. I've taken several classes from her. And like I said, I was blessed to be able to have a reading from her, and the evidence was wonderful. But that was all set up by Spirit and my son. So I do have a message from Leonini that I would like to share with you today. And I don't know if she did this because I was having Suzanne's military background, but here's the message. And this was with the intent that this was going to be shared with you, my audience, today. Camouflage is meant for concealment by making the object blend in to its surroundings. In a way, your body camouflages your soul in order to blend in with your physical world, so you may experience your physical life. But there will become a time when the camouflage no longer serves you and should be removed, because it will no longer be important for you to blend in with the status quo with everybody else. That time is now. We urge you to step out of the comfort of camouflage and be seen as the unique soul that you are. And this happens through the accumulation of knowledge. You are not meant to all be the same, to think the same, to act the same, to look the same, and to blend into one another. You each are individual souls, and you each have your own purpose and your own journey. Stand out, and you will realize how very special you are. Now, I channeled that yesterday, but boy, does that just hit everything that we just talked about. Talking about how spirit can see into the future just a little bit. And I think that's why I got that message. So I have a couple minutes here real quick. I'm going to pull a card for you, and we'll talk about, oops, that one jumped out. This one is called the Gateway. And this is the cards. I hope you can see that. And one just came flying out of the deck. So I think that's for you. So this one is called Looking Deeper. Deep within me is a majestic radiance. But looking deeper, going within, I think is what we just talked about. How do you get in touch with all these wonderful beings and help and the web of consciousness and each other and your higher purpose? You go within, you meditate, you look deeper. And so I think that's an amazing card again to finish. It also has crystals on it, and I'm asked about crystals sometimes. Do you use crystals? Are they important? My son has told me yes. Crystals hold knowledge. They're encoded. We don't always know how to read them, but yes, they are important. Pick the one that you're drawn to. I hold a crystal. This is called androdite, and I talk about this crystal and how it was given to me in a dream. But this is my crystal. So find your own crystal. So next week, our next podcast, I am delighted to have my my friend, Hollister Rand. Hollister Rand was the very first medium that I ever went to. My son guided me to her, and she gave me the message. She brought in my son, and she is the person most responsible for putting my feet upon this path of working with orbs. So I'm super excited, and I look forward to chatting with her. You will learn a lot. If you haven't found her book, she has two, but the first one I absolutely adore. It's called I'm Not Dead, I'm Different. So I want to thank you all once again. Until next time, I'll see you. Enjoy. Bye-bye.